Hello again and welcome. My name is Michael Whitehouse. I am the founder of Conference21, as well as a coach and a whole bunch of other things. People call me all kinds of things. Some of them are nice. So we are here today with two great guests, Karen Etchells and Joe McCullum, both of whom, of course, will be speakers at Conference21. The next Conference21 is coming up May 21st to 23rd of 2021. Of course, tickets are only $21, and you can get your tickets at Conference21.com. I highly encourage you to go. If you're watching this, you may be familiar with Conference21, maybe not, but if you're not, it is a somewhat different kind of conference. It's much more about interaction and live engagement and really getting to meet people and make connections. It's not just a place to go and listen to a bunch of people talk to you or talk at you. It's a place to, you get to meet the speakers, you get to meet the other attendees and really make some connections that can turn into something, whether it's you get some great ideas or make a new friend or start a business or business collaboration, or who knows what's going to come when you take good people, put them in a space and let them connect. That's what I built the conference all about. So Conference21.com, check it out. Tickets are only $21. As I said, Friday is all networking. And then Saturday and Sunday, we've got 48 speakers speaking on 48 fantastic topics. With a whole bunch of networking and connection and whatnot in between. Also, quick shout out about my other podcast before I let the guests shout out their own things. Morningmotivation.fun. I do a daily motivational message called Morning Motivation, which is a 2 to 5 minute podcast with me giving you some kind of firing up sort of message and some music to amplify my firing up sort of message to get you going in the morning. I was looking for a podcast myself to like play between that time when you wake up and the time you get out of bed, you know what I'm talking about? And you're like, and I could not find it. So I made it. So morningmotivation.fun for that 2 to 5 minutes when you need someone to get you fired up to get your day started. It is, I think you can actually find it now. We have enough listeners so that if you put in Morning Motivation by Michael Whitehouse in iTunes, it'll actually give you my podcast and not some episode of someone else's podcast from 5 years ago. So we're getting some traction there. We've got like almost 100 daily downloads now. It's really cool. People like it. Don't miss out. Listen to the podcast. All right, enough about me. Let's meet our guests. So we have Karen Etchells from Innovast Digital Marketing. Karen, tell us a little about yourself and what makes you awesome.
Hi there. I'm Karen Etchells, and I have a small digital marketing firm called Innovast Digital Marketing. I work with a lot of independent professionals, small business owners, entrepreneurs. We provide website design, search engine optimization to help those websites be found, and social media marketing services. Great.
And we also have Joe McCullum with Eagles Wings Business Consulting. Did I get that right?
Business coaching. That's good.
Business coach. There we go. Yeah, I should have left your actual tag on there when I was reading it. Joe McCullum with Eagles Wings Business Coach. And there's the website. Tell us about yourself, Joe, and what makes you awesome.
Thank you, Michael. Eagles Wings is a business coaching firm that's dedicated to service. I'm sure you've met those business owners that are working 40 or 60, 70, 80 hours every week and still can't seem to figure out how to make their goals. Well, we like to come beside those folks, and they built their business on their skill set, which predominantly folks don't teach business skills in tech schools, whether it's a plumber or a doctor. We work with a lot of folks overseas in missions, and they don't teach a lot of business skills in seminary. So we get to come beside these folks and help them with things that are common sense. But the reality is common sense is only clear in 2020 hindsight, unless you've got somebody asking you some probing questions. And so we come beside these business owners and help them to take ownership of the business instead of being the victim of it.
Nice. Well, those are two powerful resources for folks. So we have two. So as usual, I ask each of my guests to bring a topic to kind of lead our discussion. Our discussion is going to go kind of here, there, and everywhere. I always like to do that, and that's why I don't try to necessarily line up the guests by topic, but just bring in some interesting folks and see what we have to talk about. So the first topic we have, Karen, I'll have you lead off with your topic is the importance of goal setting. So you'll kind of lead off with a bit of a introduction of the topic, share a bit, and then we'll kick it around.
Well, I'm sure we've all heard a goal without a plan is just a wish. So to go from there, I mean, I'm positive that small business owners who have started a business. They've started with a goal in mind. But one small project that I was working on just last week really brought it down to the granular level and made a lot of sense in that even in small marketing efforts that you do, setting goals is so crucial to your success, and to know what's working, what's not, what needs to be changed. I was working with an entrepreneur who had a business, and her website was recently redone and it looked beautiful. However, when I was looking at the page copy, that the messaging on her page really was talking more about herself and the work that she wanted to do rather than the problem that she solves. And I think her goal was off there. She was looking at what she wanted from a prospect, instead of turning it around and looking at what is the problem that she solves, identifying that problem, and then outlining the steps to how she would approach fixing that problem. So right off the bat, when somebody comes to her website, they can see themselves in that page and the need that is going to be fulfilled there, rather than having somebody just talking at them, I do this, I do that, this is my training, this is my background. Instead of it being me-centered, it needs to be centered around the needs of the client. So just in that switch and clarifying some goals and how you're best going to get there, it helps to craft content that makes more sense and is more likely to lead to conversions.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great point to focus not only on the goal, but how to get to that goal.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the best path is not sometimes the shortest line. Straight line is not the shortest distance.
Yeah, I'll have sometimes a client come to me and say, I need more clients. Well, of course you need more clients, but you need to switch your content around so that you're identifying the problem that you solve and making it inviting or a reasonable solution to continue to engage in your content so that you don't lose them just because you're talking all about yourself. Even another service that I offer is crafting LinkedIn summary pages, that summary section on your profile. A lot of people just put out there, this is what I've done. This is my background, me. But in the very beginning of that paragraph, you've got to craft it and say, this is who I serve, and this is how I do it. This is how I will help you. And once the prospect can see or envision themselves going down that path, you're more likely to grab them rather than talking about yourself. So sometimes just that little switch. And I think as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we get into the weeds of what we're doing and we fail to look at the bigger picture and the path to meeting smaller goals. Setting small goals that lead to your larger goals. So
that's great. There is a switch that you see go off in entrepreneurs' heads with going from, let me tell you about what I do, to let me find out what you need, and being able to serve the client instead of, yes, they need what we have, but they're not really interested in hearing our life story. They're interested in how can we solve their problems. And candidly, we are when we talk to vendors. We don't care about how great they are. Can they fix our problem? And so I really appreciate that aspect of what you said.
Identifying the problem is key right there.
I also find that setting goals, everybody says, yes, I set goals. And I hear things like what you just talked about. I need more clients. That's my goal. I want more clients. Okay, well, that's nice. Or I need more revenue. Okay, well, that's nice. Okay, I want $100,000 more revenue. Okay, that's getting a little more definitive. But how are you going to do that? Because that's a lagging indicator. We look back and say, did we make that or not? Well, I'm going to work harder. Well, that's nice, but it's kind of fruitless. You keep doing the same thing you've been doing and doing it more of. It's not going to get you more results, this different result.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
drilling down with clients on getting the leading indicators. I need more sales. Well, how much more sales? Okay, let's identify. Well, how do you get that? Well, I get more clients. Okay, how many more clients? How do you get that? Well, we keep drilling down till finally get to a place that says, I need to make more connections. Okay, how many more connections? I need to make 5 more connections every week. All right, now we've got something we can measure, we can work to, and then we can measure that on upstream to see is it delivering the kind of results we want. But that's something we can change. Say, no, 5 was enough. I need 25, or I've got 5, but they weren't 5 very good ones, so I need to get 5 better ones. So all of a sudden, we've got it down to something people can work with. So I love that. Yes, goals are critical.
Hey, one of those powerful tools that I've gotten in my coaching training is is the question of what would that give you? So, because oftentimes people latch onto it, go, oh, I need more clients. Well, if you have more clients, what would that give you? And you ask that 6 or 7 times to get all the way down to what they really want, because you may discover that they start with, I need more clients, I need more money, I need more whatever. And when they get all the way to the bottom, they say, because then I'd have time to spend with my family, we could go on weekend trips. And sometimes what you discover, and the reason it's so important to do this before going all the way down the rabbit hole of how, is you may discover that their business is making $130,000 a year and it pays them enough, but they're working too hard, but they've got enough money for what they need and they don't actually necessarily need more. And if they think they need more clients, they start working later and harder and doing more hours. Right. When you dive all the way to the bottom, it's, I want to spend more time with my family. Well, if you're already making enough money, you don't need more money. You're getting less of what you really want because you're going after so hard what you think you want, because somehow you got in your head, if I could make more money, I'd have more time. Or, any number of things. If I could make more money, I could be healthier. If I could make more money, I could whatever. And oftentimes you can shortcut that whole process and be like, well, why don't you just spend more time with your family instead of spending more time at work to somehow bank that into time with your family later? I use that because that's my example. when I did that myself, I was like, I need more clients, I need more money so I can spend more time with my daughter. Or I could just spend more time with my daughter. That would be a lot easier than making more money. So it's important to really kind of drill down on what it is you really want and why. Because oftentimes we want what people tell us we want. So, oh, you must want more money. Do I? Do I really? Oh, you need a nicer car. Do I really need a nicer car? Do I really?
Well, sometimes you need to make adjustment to what you think your goals are. And I think that's one of the great values in working with a mentor or a coach, is to really help you identify those goals and, break that down into smaller steps so that you can feel yourself getting closer. I mean, in your case, maybe you need to attract one high-paying client, and that would do it. So change the direction of your marketing, of your messaging, and think of other ways that would bring you closer to meeting that perfect client.
Absolutely. Yeah. And sometimes that what a coach can do for you as well is reflect back to you what it is, what assets you have that you're not using. For example, I was recently, actually the hour before this one, I was being interviewed on someone else's podcast, and in the course of that, I was watching the way she promoted her podcast. And of course, she's like, here's the link. Make sure you send it out to your post on your Facebook, send it out to your email list, do all these things. And I was thinking, oh, I could do all those things too. I probably should. I don't, but I should. And so, pretty low hanging fruit kind of stuff I could do. But if you don't have someone reflecting that back to say, hey, are you doing these things? It can be really easy to get off track or get hooked onto, because especially when you're running your own business, there's so many things going on. Even if you're not, even if you're an employee or you're a gig worker or whatever, you got family, you got maybe home stuff, maybe school stuff, maybe there's so many things. And our limited monkey brains are not designed to do a tenth of what we ask them to do. So it's very important to have someone to be like, hey, did you remember to do this thing? Remember you're still in school? Am I? Oh, shoot, I should do that. Do you still have kids? Oh, kids. Yeah, that's right. Feed them like 3 times a day.
There's a proverb that says that and I'll butcher it, so if you want quote verses, I got to go somewhere else. But it says that the one man alone will be cold at night, two together will have warmth, but a threefold cord is hard to break. And yes, we can go life alone. Much better if we go with somebody walking beside us, and even much better than that if we've got a couple people walking beside us.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely is true.
Well, there's another saying that says something like behind every great man is a greater woman or something like that. But I think it's just to have that feedback of another person looking in from the outside they can see the bigger picture or look at things when you're down in the weeds that you're going to miss. So it's to have that feedback is so valuable.
Yes.
My Google Foo is just slightly too slow to be impressive.
Okay.
If I was faster, then I would have had this up when we were still talking about it. Ta-da! It's Ecclesiastes 4:12.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yep.
So I told you I wouldn't do a good job quoting it.
Yep. And I didn't do a good enough job searching it. but no, you got it pretty well. And it's you pretty low. Definitely the concept. The one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. Yeah, there's some useful stuff in that Bible thing. Probably the reason why I cut on. Couple of good thoughts in there. It's really great to have build a tribe and community. And a story I tell often is I am to myself a noticeably different person than I was when I started planning Conference 21. And it's because through the course of planning it, through these roundtables, through the Zoom calls, through one-to-ones with different speakers, I found a whole bunch of mindset coaches, motivation coaches, business coaches, successful business people, wellness people. And then I talked to them a lot. And they weren't so much coaching me, but a bunch of them liked the conference and wanted to make sure it's successful. So they'd be like, hey, get on a call. Let me give you let me go through some things. Make sure you're doing those well. And I always like to be very careful to not claim full credit for this event, because all I did was come up with it, brought a bunch of people in, and then pretty much did what they told me. I mean, I do have some knowledge of running sci-fi conventions for 20 years, and that certainly informed a bit of it. But the real power of it was the 28 speakers we had last time and the 48 this time, and all they shared with me and all that I learned from them that really changed the way I looked at things, changed the way I appreciated things. Some technical things, just speakers being like, hey, have you sent out the such and such? No, but I'm about to right now. But
that's something I always tell my teenage daughter, you never want to be the smartest one in the room. Like you always look for friends that are smarter than you, or, even if I tell her, like, don't worry if they're the geeks, they got something to offer you that you don't know. It's step out of your comfort zone and, learn from others. There's always something to learn in everyone you meet.
That was one of Warren Buffett's claims. I always want to be the dumbest one in the room.
Yeah.
Yep. He said if I'm coming up with the best marketing plan, then we're in bad shape. I've got a marketing manager that I expect is going to come up with a lot better plan than I can.
Yep.
I had a very wise mentor that challenged me he said, I can tell you the difference in where you are today and where you'll be 5 years from now, simply by the books you read and the people you meet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's definitely a huge thing. And and the other thing is, I think a lot of people sometimes hold back on doing something because they're not ready. Like if I waited to start Conference 21 until I had either money or like already had speakers lined up, I never would have done it. Right. But instead, with basically zero budget and zero speakers, I said, I'm running a conference. Who's in? And of course, everyone assumed everyone else was already in. And we got 32 people who signed up because I said, this is what it's going to be. And sure enough, they all came. And then together they made it as awesome as I said it would be. I didn't make an awesome conference. They made the awesome conference. I gave them the reason to do it. And that's what I'm trying to do running Rotary as well is oftentimes you're with an organization, you're like, well, let's stay to our capabilities. Let's not strain too much. But if it's a volunteer organization like, Rotary or Kiwanis, something like that, people are going to leave. They're not going to be inspired because you're punching below your weight. And they're like, what are we doing here? We clean up a thing, or we raise $1,000, or I don't know if this is worth as much time as I put into it. But if instead you say, yeah, we're going to change the world. Let's go cure polio. Let's build a theater. Let's eliminate homelessness in our city. Something ridiculously ambitious. Yeah.
It needs a goal and it needs a leader.
Yep. And even if it's an impossible goal, just the effort to try to get there. If you try to raise $1 million, you only raise 100,000. At worst, you go give the money back. At best, you go to your donors and say, so we only raised 100,000. You want to still do something? Because we've got a big pile of money, just not a big enough pile of money. You want to do a different project? But you didn't fail. You just didn't get there. But you built you probably built an apparatus. You probably attracted a lot of people, and you probably got a lot of momentum going. And by getting back to your original topic, by having a goal and focusing on that end, and good things happen there. Speaking of ends, Joe, you brought us a question to be your topic, which is, can the end justify the means? So lead us off on this topic.
Sure. Thank you. I routinely run into the challenge of, well, we want to do this. Can we take a shortcut? And, I think at the high level, we look at that question and say, no, the end cannot always justify the means. I mean, if we got rid of all the people in the world, it might be a better place, but committing mass murder is not a means that justifies an end. So at some point, we always say, no, it cannot. But it's the littler things that come into question. It's we can get under this price and offer a better price if we use some lower grade materials. We can get more clients if we promise things that we know we're never going to deliver, but we'll add them on later and charge extra for it. It's easy to start getting lost in I want to accomplish an objective, so let's sidestep. And I'm going to contend that you have to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to live with yourself. So even the small things, if you allow yourself to take a shortcut, if you allow yourself to shorten the path, then you just kind of callous yourself a little bit. And the next thing that's a little bit bigger won't seem like a challenge. So that's the long answer to the short answer of no, the end cannot justify the means, big or small.
I was reminded of, that's not what I wanted. I was reminded of this saying here, well begun is half done. That the roots of what you start with will grow through the entire project. I see that in running Facebook groups, that whatever the energy is you start with when you recruit your first 20 people is the energy you'll have when you have 10,000 people. So I actually ran into that with there's one group I started back at the beginning of the school year because I wanted to bring people together because I was concerned about certain things the town was doing around the pandemic. And the problem was that energy of we're watching you stuck. And when I tried to shift it to be more collaborative and positive, it's really hard to move over when we started with that negative energy. And the same thing with, you're busy. If you start by cutting corners, or you start by using a lower quality or whatever, it's really hard to change because you're going to attract the wrong audience. You're going to try to create the wrong brand, and
it's reputation, right? You're building a reputation when you're building a business, and that all reflects. So maybe you scored that deal, but if in the end you raised your price after you promised a lower price, you're losing trust. And people may say, okay, I'm fine, but I'm done with you. They're not going to come back for the next thing you have to offer, or people talk. So integrity's really, really crucial in conducting the business.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And also if you say, oh, we're going to start by being cheap and then we'll work into the luxury space, it's really hard to make that pivot tough. because you attract the audience that wants discounts.
Right. That's right.
You attract an audience that doesn't want value. They want to spend less money. They want to get cheap stuff cheap, as I describe whatever you get at Walmart. They want junk for junk prices. And if you get to be known as junk for junk prices, and then you're like, all right, now we're going to make quality says we really wanted to make. Well, you don't have that audience. And the audience you want knows you as the junk for junk prices guys. And the audience you don't want is your customers.
And the reality is that there are folks that make great success leading the low cost.
Mm-hmm.
There are folks that make great success leading the great quality.
Yep.
Folks fail when they can't figure out which one they're at. And
Yes.
so I think I want to be great quality, but I want to cut things so I can be low cost. Well, you just can't do that. It's a three-legged stool, material and time and money.
Yep.
You can't. You have to put all three of them together, and if you cut one, it's going to change the profile. So.
Yep. Yeah. Good, cheap, fast. Choose two.
That's it. Thank you.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah. I reminded. Have you seen the movie Yes Man? Jim Carrey from about 20 years ago or so. So in the movie Yes Man, he was convinced that if he didn't say yes to something, then bad would happen. Like he thought he was cursed. That if he ever said no, then the universe would punish him for it. So he started saying yes, so he'd avoid that bad luck. And it was eventually revealed that it was just his perception of it, wasn't real. But I kind of feel that way about discounting. That whenever I've discounted, whenever I've cut someone a break, that's invariably the client I wish I didn't have. If I'm like, you know what? Okay, yeah, I understand you can't afford my regular rate. I'll do it for you for half price because I know you need the help. That's the one who ends up being harder to work with or keeps canceling appointments or doesn't pay on time.
I have made that mistake myself.
Yep. Yeah. Whereas on the other hand, you got the person who you tell them your price and they're like, oh, that's it? Oh, yeah, sure. Okay, great. And they don't complain. They don't worry. They pay on time. They're happy for it. They appreciate it. They're paying twice as much. And I've seen other coaches and consultants talk about that, explaining why you should have a $5,000 offer instead of a $5 offer. And yeah, not kind of like a tripwire offer. That's the initial attraction offer. But if your product is a $5 product and you want to make $5 million, well, you either need 1,000 at 5,000 or 100,000 at 5, and every one of those 100,000 is one person who might complain, one person who might need to call customer service, one person who might return it. So it's easier to manage a smaller group of higher quality clients. But then you run into some people who are like, well, I can't afford that, and you always have that inclination.
Your client.
Yeah.
If they can't afford it, then they're not your client. They can go elsewhere, right?
Yeah, and especially tough in coaching. Because, I'll talk to people who like they're having a real problem, like a serious problem in their life. And I know I have the tools to help them, but it would take me an hour, 2 hours of my time every week, 3 hours of my time every week. And I know they can't pay me. And I need to remember, like, yes, I could help them. It would change their life, but it would also change mine. I'm transferring my energy to them with no energy back. And without that, I feel like without that equal exchange, the value is not there. It becomes an unbalanced. Sometimes they feel indebted, which creates some animosity, or they don't appreciate it, and then you feel animosity because you're like, I'm doing all this for you.
Or as
they have to know your value, for one thing.
Yeah.
You want clients, or you want to attract people to work with you who value you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they value your advice. And so when they do, that struggle isn't quite there.
I had to learn with pro bono work. I do considerable work. I work with missionaries on foreign fields that don't have any money. I started with a lady that was building a museum and very limited funds. And so I said, I'll work with you pro bono, which we did fine for a little bit, but it wasn't but a few months in, and all of a sudden, she was very kind. She was very gracious. She spoke well of me, gave me great reference. But she wasn't doing the things that she had decided as we'd come together and a here's a couple things to work on this week, and come back and something else had gotten to it. And
that's because she had no skin in the game.
Well, after a period, I come to realize, she was working with me because I was free, and so she felt guilty about not being kind and not presenting well, but she had no desire to grow and make that thing work, or not the driving desire that's going to make an entrepreneur do that. She would like to have had it, but she just didn't have that kind of drive. And so she was placating me. Well, that's wonderful. Wasn't doing either of us any good, just wasting an hour of our time every week. So so I have adopted that. Even when I work with folks overseas, I'll work with them on a 90-day period for a defined plan, maybe build a business plan. And so we'll do that. And at the end of that, if they want me to continue, we'll be under a contract. So I still want to do some of that work, but it's very defined and very specific.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I've talked to a couple of coaches who they'll actually give homework. This is for paying clients. They'll give them homework before they'll consider working with them. Yeah. So they'll say, read this book or do this, fill out this form, or, basically do something for me before I'll take your money, which one, make sure you're getting the right clients. And two, boy, does that flip the script on the, I don't know if I want to work with you. No. I don't know if I want to work with you. Pass this test first, then I'll take your money. It very much switches the whole dynamic of the usual sales process. But Joe, go ahead. I think I cut you off something.
No. Another piece of the service for free is, again, because I work with folks in the mission field, I meet a lot of folks like myself that are supporting these missionaries. And so we'll go to a conference, and this person will say, I'm a marriage counselor, and I know that I can help some of these folks going overseas. There's going to be some pressures they have with their family, their kids, etc. And so I'm wanting to do my services. And so I'm sitting down talking with this person, saying, well, what do you charge? He said, well, this is a mission. I want to just do it. And so I'm available to do it for free. And so I have to help those folks understand that what you just told that prospective client is you're worthless. Because they're hearing from you, oh, you'll do it for free. Okay, well, what am I really going to get for free? It'd be much better if you told them this is a $1,000 package, but I'm working with a church and have a couple sponsors, and we could take you on as a sponsor and drop your fee to $50. So you're presenting, and people are hearing you've got a valuable product, because you do have a valuable product. So saying I'm giving it for free says I've got a worthless product.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely just somehow leverage the value.
Perception is reality, right? So how you present it is a lot to do with how much value people have on it.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the other way is let's say you're working with someone who really has no money, but you want to help them, which most people have more money than you think. But create some requirements, so they're not paying you in cash. They might not be paying you in trade because they have nothing to trade, but they pay you in work. So, here's your homework for this week. We're going to open up our call. You're going to tell me with the homework. And if it's not done, I'm going to politely say goodbye, and we'll talk the next week, because you didn't pay for that lesson. And, you didn't pay by doing the work that shows me you're invested in it. Again, assuming that you even do want to work for free at all, but it's a way to give them skin in the game. Mm-hmm. Even though you didn't get that skin, okay, that's a weird image. Even though you didn't get that value from them, they put in the value, and that's the power of sacrifice that creates value in their mind.
Right.
But you also need to be at a certain point in your business where you're really able to actually give full value for free. You need to be pretty comfortable, with a few clients, and it's not something you should be doing when you have one or two clients and you're barely getting by yourself, because then it's almost more of an act of desperation of like, maybe if I give it away, somebody will buy it.
With the exception of the mentor that challenged me at the very beginning, he said, Joe, I'm so hungry to learn how to coach. If I could find a dog or a cat that would sit still, I'd pay them to let me coach them.
Yeah, well, that's a different thing. That's practice.
Yes.
That's something, and I've done that with a few things. I'm doing a lot of coaching training over the last few months, and I'll learn this technique, and I'm like, oh my God, this technique is great, and none of my current clients need it. All right, who needs it? Who needs this? I want to use it, because you learn it, and then when you use it the first time, you're like, oh, that didn't work like I thought it did. It works, but differently. Well, now I want to try it again. Who else needs it? Who else needs it? But that's not giving it away free. That's your value. The value is I want to practice it. I want to try it out, and you'll gain from it too. Yeah, It's not about you. It's about me. I want to use it. I want to practice with it. So,
well, it's how I started in web design way back 25 years ago. It was working on websites for nonprofits. For me, I was doing good and I was getting experience. So it was a win-win back then. So, but now that I'm well established, I mean, really, I still work for nonprofits, but they do pay me something.
Yeah. Well, that's you hear about like artists being asked to work for exposure, and that's very much maligned because it's often very misused. But there is a time and a place where experience and exposure have value. And you think about exposure, like Karen, that's what you sell. People pay you to give them exposure. That's all a website does. It gives you exposure. It just has to be real exposure, and experience has to be real experience. So if there's something you want to learn how to do, if you want to learn how to manage a Facebook page, and you've got a nonprofit who needs someone to manage their Facebook page, and you can experiment on their dime, it's not going to be free for them because you're going to misspend some of their advertising money. You're going to screw up some of their messages, but they don't pay you for it. So you learn on their platform.
It's like an internship, right?
And everybody was like, but that's real.
When I work with interns now, it's a lot of time and energy to correct them, and more than I ever imagined. I thought having an intern was going to save me time. No way. I'm going over their work and redirecting them and educating them. It's costing me a lot of time, but I do it because it helps to elevate someone else, and it makes me feel good because I'm giving of myself. And I think that's an important too of any entrepreneur, to have a way to also not be so stingy with your knowledge, but to help young people to rise, help other people, as long as we're all making money here. But I did find I had to limit my time with interns because I'm not a full-time teacher. I still have to keep this business running. So it just didn't save me as much time as I imagined.
I think it's one of the challenges with a virtual intern too versus an in-office intern. Because for an in-office intern, there's value in being in the office, chatting with staff, walking by them in the hallway. I talked with the conference planning about the hallway experience. So if you're in the office and you're an intern, well, you might bump into the VP of sales and just have a water cooler conversation, which is $1,000 of training around the water cooler because they drop a couple of gold nuggets on you that just fall out of them all the time because they know so much. Whereas a virtual internship, you can't have them just filing and getting coffee for you because there's not going to be any value. They need to be actually doing work, which means you have to actually manage them and train them and teach them. So it's not the same to have a virtual intern as an in-office intern.
True. Well, they're missing the office culture, but they are getting some really solid feedback on actual work. So.
They're getting the value, but rather than value coming out of the space, it's coming out of the Karen.
Just a different kind of value, yes.
Yeah. So it's a little more intensive to do that kind of. Yeah, I thought about trying to find some sort of intern or apprentice or whatnot to help, but again, the same issue. I need to train them so thoroughly in what they need to do.
Right.
It's where do you find that person who wants to learn, but who knows enough to be useful, but little enough to be helpful.
Right.
The dynamics not dissimilar from the thing we're experiencing with remote workers. That when we were all coming together in an office, you kind of see what somebody was, whether they were at least busy or not. But with remote workers, and you can't see that. So it is as a manager, then if there's some things that we need to do pulled together, is in having what are the clear objectives? What are the measures of those success? As we talked about goals before, as you hire somebody, what do we want them to accomplish in 3 months or whatever the term of the internship is? And how are we going to measure that step by step along the way so that they can have a chance to succeed, and then virtually overseeing them. And like I said, that's not dissimilar to as skills we're having to learn and develop in the remote work world.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah. And I have seen some studies that say that remote workers are often more efficient, but I think that probably pre-assumes that they know what they're doing and what their job is. And if you're one of those workers like, what's your job? Well, it's to sit in a cubicle and, fill out reports. What do the reports do? I don't know. That kind of person might not be more efficient because it doesn't help. But I'm not sure the statistic is, but like out of an 8-hour workday, the average worker does 3.5 hours of work or something like that. But they're expected to be there for 8 hours. And so all of a sudden you send them home, they do 3.5 hours work in 3.5 hours. They're still just as efficient. They're happier because they also did their laundry and washed their dishes and mopped the floor and fed the cat and brushed the dog. But maybe they did 4 hours of work because now they felt guilty because they spent all that time dealing the housework. And now you got 4 hours of work out of them instead of 3.5 hours of work. Since people aren't machine, I mean, unless they're standing in a factory going. Other than that, people don't tend to have linear outputs. It's usually a bit more goes into that. So before I let you all go, let's go around and share what you'll be talking about at Conference 21 so that people can know why they're going to buy their tickets. And I suspect what you are both about to say will each be worth $21 to hear. And then on top of that, there's 46 other people also giving talks, plus the networking. So we'll go in reverse order from what we did before the introductions. Joe, what are you going to be talking about at Conference 21?
Well, I paid Karen for her question because it's a great lead-in for my topic. I'm talking about KPIs, making the numbers make sense, SENSE, because when the numbers make sense, the cents, CENTS, make dollars. And it's all about being able to establish goals and take them upstream to get the leading indicators, and then monitoring the leading indicators and the milestones along the way to help your organization achieve its goals.
Awesome. That definitely sounds something a lot of people can use. And Karen, what will you be speaking about?
Yes, I'll be talking about how you can grow your personal brand online to grow your business.
Nice. Explain that faster than I can type it. So, yeah, and I believe you're also going to be speaking at our the Norwich Chamber leadership as well, right?
Yes.
About, I believe, that very topic, since the class they assigned to me was networking and personal branding. So,
yes.
I guess I know something about that, and you do too, which is why you'll be there. So, still working on pin down location, but we'll be in person because it's the future. Who thought the future would be getting back in person? But it's happening. We're having in-person events. I'm actually next week going to a live breakfast networking event.
Nice.
And I'll be fully vaccinated, so I'll be comfortable to actually do that. So
Yep.
Weird. I'll have to remember how to talk to people without looking at a camera. I'll be like, hey, could you hold your phone up? Because I'm just not used to not looking at a camera. Eyes are weird.
Well, the weird thing to me is when you do one of those rare times when I meet somebody in person, and do I shake hands or not shake hands?
Exactly.
That's the weird thing to me.
I was going to say the hardest part is getting used to the fist bump or elbow bump or
the new culture. What's comfortable for the other person?
Yep.
Or the person that's always been a hugger. Okay, let's just hold our arms out.
Yeah. I think the trick is to kind of do this non-committal, this thing that could be a handshake or could be a fist bump, and then see what they do. Be like, oh, fist bump it is. Yeah, okay. Or handshake it is.
That's a great technique to teach there, Michael.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember there's a video at the beginning of the pandemic of two people. They get together and they're about to shake hands, and then they kind of do this wave off, and they like kick feet instead. And
or you get the elbow.
Yeah, I was telling the two Kiyoshis at the dojo that they should make a video, which I'm sure would have gone viral if they made it, making something like that, but using like the timing and vibe of a bunku, a two-person kata, because they're kind of doing that like out, pull back, in for the hand and back and the elbow and the fist bump and the foot. But yeah, they never did that. So disappointed because they would have been so good. But yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot. But the thing is, from the actual safety standpoint, COVID is not transmissible by contact. I mean, if they are sick and you shake their hand, then like put your hand in your mouth, then you might be able to catch it. But if you're following basic hygiene, like, putting hand sanitizer on before you touch food, which you really should anyway, I think a lot of people have enjoyed not getting the flu and not getting a cold for the last 12 months because my daughter's had no sick days. She hasn't gotten sick in a year. Neither have I. Yeah. It's amazing. So, keep doing that. As long as you're doing that, then handshakes are safe. Now, whether people are comfortable with it or not is up to them, but they're safe. So it becomes much more of an etiquette thing than an actual safety thing, which is nice to move back to the field of etiquette out of the field of like, that person's rudeness could kill me. That's a weird place to live. So, yeah, but it'll be nice to see people in person at all. Yeah, I seem to be, I'll be in the supermarket and run into somebody and be like, you have legs and arms and elbows. I forgot people had legs and elbows. Wow, look at that. I mean, you still have no mouth, of course.
And pants.
And pants. You have pants. Yeah.
One of my favorite commercials out of all this is the guy that walks out on the patio with his suit jacket and no pants on and said, "Oh, this is a live meeting? I thought we were virtual."
Yep. Yeah. Last night I was at a remote representative town meeting. And the town manager was there, and he commented on how it's feels so weird for him to wear a suit jacket right now. But it's a budget meeting. He felt like he should be dressed properly. He's like, but I am wearing jeans underneath. And I'm thinking to myself, thanks for letting us know you're wearing pants. I appreciate that. Yep. It's funny. I just still go out a fair amount, like to the grocery store and the gas station and other things. I just don't do meetings. So, it's going to be a weird adjustment to get back to unadjusting everything we weirdly adjusted. So, but it'll be good. Hopefully we keep everything we learned. We'll keep doing these, the Sling Show and StreamYard and Zoom and all these different platforms that I knew nothing about 15 months ago that are now a daily part of life that I intend to keep because is it convenient to do a meeting virtually instead of driving somewhere.
Yeah, and all the time and gas that we save.
Yep. And now I have a house, so now if someone's like, I want to meet in person, sure, come on over here. You drive, I'll stay. It's like a Zoom meeting in person. I love it. So we got a deck. We'll meet outside. It'll be cool. So, all right. Well, great to hang out with both of you guys. And I will, looking forward to seeing you in a few weeks. I can't remember if you're on the show again between now and then, but if you are, I'll see you then. And if not, I'll see you in May, which is actually starting tomorrow. It's April 30th. Look at that. May 21st to 23rd, when you'll be giving your great talks, as will all the others. And you'll make connections and we'll make connections. The audience will make connections, and they should all go right now. Like, stop what you're doing. Go to conference21.com and get your tickets so you can be part of this amazing event. Well, Karen and Joe, thank you both very much for being on the show. It's been fun, and I look forward to seeing you again in a few weeks.
Thank you, Michael, for the opportunity, and great to meet you, Karen.
Yes, you as well. Thank you, Michael.